Hi guys, I'm Therapy Through Pixels, and today I wanted to talk to you about a lesser known watercolor set. It's one of my most used art products. In fact, I'd say the bulk of the videos I put up on my channel are using this watercolor set. In the art community, you see a lot of people using Winsor & Newton, Daniel Smith, Schmincke, Holbein, but I rarely see anyone using this set, the White Nights Watercolor set. I've used these for a while now, like several years, and I've got a lot of thoughts I'd like to share. So these colors are highly pigmented, which I love. They're light fast too, so they won't fade over time. And these are professional grade watercolors, and the price does reflect that a little bit. For that reason, this is not a set I would recommend for watercolor beginners. If you're a beginner, please hit that subscribe button because I'm going to be putting out a beginner art tutorial on how to do watercolor portraits just like I do, but using really accessible materials like things you can buy at Walmart for like $5 or less. Okay, so the price, let's talk about that first. So I paid $80 for this set of 24. They're 10 milliliter tubes, which I do think is well worth the price considering what you would get from other brands. Let's take a look at that, okay? So for a similar-ish set of Holbeins, you would pay $120 for a set of 24 5 milliliter tubes, okay? Like not even the 10 milliliter. So you're paying, you know, almost double, not quite double, for half of the paint, you know? So that's makes that $80 sounds a little bit better. And that unfortunately is the cheap end of the, you know, higher quality watercolor sets that you can get. Winsor & Newton's set is $125 for 24 5 milliliter tubes, again with the 5 milliliters, half the size of these White Nights, right? Daniel Smith is $130 for these 24 half pans. So as far as I know, they don't offer tubes. And then we've got Schmincke. Schmincke is gonna run you $170 for 24 colors. $170. Yeah. And those are for half pans as well. So now let's go back to that $80 of the White Nights set. Okay, so I think you can tell one of the really big draws to this product. It is again, a professional watercolor set that is a very high quality, but not nearly in the same price bracket as the rest of these guys. Okay, so let's compare, right? We talked about the price of the White Nights. We talked about the price of Winsor & Newton. Let's kind of compare the prices to the differences in quality, because there's got to be some, right? I mean, this is a pretty big price difference after all. So here's the swatches side by side. You can tell the White Nights are very vibrant, which is not going to be everybody's jam. It might be a little too bold for some people, especially depending on what you're going to use them for. Like I maybe would not necessarily use these for, landscaping with a lot of, trees and flowers and stuff. But that's not the kind of stuff I do anyway. So definitely kind of think about, before you buy these, what would you even be using these for? Like, what is your subject? I find that they're great for character art, at least how I use them. And I think they might be good for florals, flowers, and stuff. I think they're good for expressive work too. So if you're doing something a little bit more abstract, like I've actually used these for art therapy before, and that was pretty nice. It was nice to have some really good, bold colors to represent the emotions that we were painting at that time. For my color nerds out there, most of these colors are single pigment. That means they mix cleanly. They mix as you would expect. You're not going to get any kind of weird and random colors from mixing because there was some kind of additive that you weren't aware of. The colors aren't going to get gray and murky when you mix them, which happens a lot with things like cheap gouache and stuff like that. So very, very pure colors here. Very, very nice for mixing. And you can get really nice glazes from them. They're not super granulating like some brands can be, which that could be a pro or con, again, depending on how you use it. Some colors granulate a little bit more than others. I keep most of my frequently used colors on my palettes. It's why I like getting tubes, because I have that freedom. I can make that choice myself and use them how I want to use them. I can have tubes or I can have half pans, and I really like that freedom. You barely have to touch your brush to the paint to get a really strong color from it. They're really smooth. They're not chalky. I have here a red and a yellow from my White Nights set and a red and a yellow from my Winsor & Newton set. So I'm going to show you what it looks like to use this White Nights set and kind of compare it to the Winsor & Newton set, just so you can kind of see for yourself if the difference in price is worth it for you or not, because it might be or it might not be. So I'll kind of show you this, and you can see they interact pretty similarly. Also, just for funsies, here's Holbein. And then I also did this on different types of paper, so you can see how these paints perform on different paper qualities. Now, paper, of course, is most important. Paper is one of those things that you really get what you pay for. If I was going to suggest, if you were getting into this hobby and you were trying to figure out where you wanted to spend your cash, I would spend that on paper, not on actual color, at least until that, you've played around with watercolors enough to know your preferences. But until then, I would spend your money on paper. So this is the Arteza watercolor journal. It's $18 for a 3-pack, and there's 240 pages per journal, but it is pretty cheap paper. You'll see most of the shorts I make and stuff is using this paper, just because it's easy, it's accessible, and I have a lot of it. I need to use it. So I find it works okay with this paper. I mean, you can definitely see that there are little imperfections in the paper, and that can show up when you're putting paint down. Like right here, I did this portrait, and you can see these little specks that come up whenever I'm painting. I have my Pentalic watercolor journal. It's $50 for 48 pages. So a bit more expensive, and also why I don't really bust it up that often. I've also used these with the Strathmore mixed media and Strathmore watercolor cold press. Those are both $15, but the mixed media is 15 pages and the cold press watercolor is 24 pages. And I really like the way it performs on both of these. It dries faster on the mixed media paper, and again, you kind of have to know your preferences here a little bit, but I really enjoyed working with both of these papers. And here's some of the paintings that I've done with these watercolors. If you're an artist that's looking to branch out and try some fancier products, but you're not ready to commit to spending lots of money on the big brands, I highly suggest these. In fact, as I've kind of mentioned, I have some of those big brands. I have Winsor and Newton, but I mean, look, I barely touched it. I just love these paints so much, and I hope you do too if you get a chance to go for them. So thank you for listening to me yap about my favorite art product, and I hope you guys have a good rest of the week. Bye, everybody.